Good afternoon. Today I have the privilege of sitting down with Carol Gomes, Chief Executive Officer of Stony Brook University Hospital. As we recognize Women's History Month, it feels especially meaningful to reflect on Carol's 40 years of service and the remarkable leadership journey that brought her to this role. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you. It's good to be here. 40 years, though. That took me a moment to breathe there for a moment.
It is a signal achievement. I really think you should be proud.
Thank you.
So, obviously, as you say, that 40 years is extraordinary. When you look back at where you started as a lab tech at Stony Brook University Hospital and where you are today as CEO of that very same hospital, what feels like the biggest transformation for you?
Not necessarily personally, but just the exponential growth of Stony Brook medicine. When I started as a lab tech, I was literally working on the ground floors of the hospital. And for those employees who remember back in those days, we actually had all of our ambulatory clinics located on mostly level 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I think back to that time where we were one hospital with ambulatory units literally sprinkled within the hospital. And, I just think about where we've come all these years later with 200 plus sites and 4 hospitals that are thriving, and just so proud of the growth that we've achieved.
Absolutely. There's a lot to be proud of there.
Yes.
And I do remember those outpatient mods and the
Yes.
old entrance to the hospital is very different than it is now.
Yes.
Now, you've led us through a lot of economic crises, through healthcare reform, through workforce crises, not to mention a pandemic. What sustains you as a leader?
When I think about what sustains me as a leader, it's really the team and the staff and the ability to work collaboratively with incredibly talented and confident individuals and people who are really passionate about the work that they do every day. And that's really what sustains me. When I come in every morning and I swipe my card and I start walking down the hallway, I just get energized watching people walking in the hallway, saying good morning, and knowing the good work that everybody brings to the table every single day, and caring for our patients and for our community. And that's really what keeps me going.
That's great. That's great. I'm sure that all those people would be very surprised and pleased to know that they inspire you every day. I think that's great.
Thank you. Now,
one of the things that I know is very important to you is environmental sustainability.
Yes.
So actually, Women's History Month kind of does center on sustainability. How did you become interested in environmental stewardship? And for you, practically speaking, how has it evolved over the years?
Well, it really all started when I first became the interim COO. I was working very closely with the Director of Environmental Health and Safety. For those of you who remember, it was Jill Kavukian. Mm-hmm. And she was very inspiring and passionate about sustainability. And one of the very first initiatives that the hospital focused on was becoming mercury-free. Mm-hmm. And she just was very focused on ensuring that the equipment that we used didn't have mercury, that any of the work processes, we worked hard to eliminate the use of mercury. And as a result, the hospital won awards as a mercury-free hospital. And it was early on before other hospitals had built that momentum in that direction. And once that was accomplished, she, was basically saying, what can we do next? And so we started doing some digging and looking around, and there was an organization, and is an organization called Practice Green Health, which really focuses on environmental sustainability for healthcare organizations and what healthcare organizations can do to address these opportunities. And so she really took the lead in doing some of the research with Practice Green Health. And as a result, we worked together to form a steering committee that focused on various branches of environmental sustainability, whether it was regulated waste reduction, energy consumption, water use. We even focused on opportunities relating to the rooftop farm, which Josephine Connolly-Grunin really has taken to great heights, no pun intended or pun intended. So by virtue of that activity, we formed a steering committee, and then each subgroup of Practice Green Health, all of those areas that I mentioned previously, we formed subcommittees. As a result of all of our efforts with Practice Green Health, we've actually won many sustainability awards, including one of the top 25 hospitals in the country. We've won leadership awards. We've won environmentally preferable procurement awards. So many initiatives that have really reaped great outcomes and benefits.
That's really wonderful. And I know it's true what you're saying, that when I go to national meetings and I say I'm at Stony Brook, there's a number of people who, among many other things that they call out about the wonderful things that we do here, call out our sustainability practices. So, my hat's off to you for, among many other things, that as well.
Well, my hats are off to all of the team leads for all of those subcommittees. You really do the bulk of the work, and we submit a ton of data that really supports the good work we do. So,
well, that's great.
Yeah.
To have had the success using environmental sustainability as an example that you've had as a leader, one really has to focus on the long-term gains and improvements over short-term wins. And that's something that I've seen and admire about your leadership for many years. How do you keep that focus on what's really in the long-term picture rather than just sort of a short-term gain that's easy to reverse?
It's really all part of the planning process. And I credit my roots to quality improvement, because if we think about the PDCA cycle, the last step is act to hold the game.
Right.
So as a result, it's really important to be able to develop processes that are tried and true that will sustain the test of time.
Right. Well, that's a really good point. I actually hadn't thought of it that way, but of course, that is part of that cycle because it doesn't end. It keeps going.
That's right. And it's a continuous process of improvement. So even sometimes when we hit a target goal, you need to continuously improve on those goal sets and make sure that you're hitting the mark. And again, many times the rest of the world is continuing to improve and could improve at a faster rate. So it's always important to recognize that you have to be ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And we see that so often with pretty much everything that we do. Yet with this kind of mindset, we're able to continue to really lead the pack, which is very impressive. What do you think our responsibility and the responsibility of other large health systems have to the communities that we serve?
As a premier academic medical center on Long Island, we have a responsibility as social citizens to ensure that we provide a safe environment, not only for our staff, our faculty, but also for our patients, their families, and anyone who comes through our doors. Health equity and sustainability is also a really important part of who we are and what we do. I'm very proud of the Joint Commission work that our Health Equity Steering Committee has accomplished with leaders Judy Brown-Clark and Nicole Rossa leading that charge, along with Dr. Morley and Colette Brown and Patricia Cooper and all of the team members who helped to support those efforts. It's really important to think about what happens if there's a heat wave, and how do we care for our patients, and how does that impact the climate, the environment, and the care that we render to our patients. We actually have engaged in emergency management in conducting disaster drills in anticipation of climate events that could negatively impact our patients. And so we need to be prepared to know what resources are available for our patients and our community to be able to navigate these difficult situations.
Absolutely. And I think people may not realize the emergency management piece of what you do, as was evidenced by our recent snowstorm and having to open up our emergency operations center. But that clearly is an important part of our community service.
Yes.
Can you spend just a moment talking about what it's like to sort of be in one of those emergency situations where you're managing a crisis moment to moment?
I think that the most important thing is to always remain calm and just rely back on the processes and the systems that have been set up to be able to ensure success in the first place. And I think as long as we follow those protocols and use good judgment and leadership decisiveness, you're always in a better position. And what I also noticed, especially during crises, and I think back to the pandemic, I try not to think about it too much, but we really rose to the occasion and everyone brought their A game because we all know how important the work is that we do here and the impact that it has on the community. And if we falter, we can't afford to falter. And so, success is always the focus. And so as a result, we want to always optimize our outcomes. And that's why it's so important to always prepare. That's why we drill. But in the deepness of whatever incident or crisis is happening, oftentimes I'll take a moment to look around the table at the command center and see how the serious nature of how everyone is so laser focused on whatever role they have in that command center and recognizing the resources that would be available to get us through that whatever that crisis is. And we have just such capable, smart people, and it just makes everyone's life a lot easier.
I agree 100% on both counts. Let me shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
Obviously, you're a woman in an extremely high-profile leadership position. When you think about the evolution of women in leadership over the last 4 decades since you got to Stony Brook, what changes have you seen and what still needs work?
So starting out, again, several decades ago, I didn't really notice too many women in positions of leadership here. And over the years, I've seen growth in that area. I feel very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to have mentors along the way who've supported my career growth and my professionalism. And never did I think when I first started working in the laboratory that I would be CEO one day here. My goal was to be a laboratory administrator. And I really worked hard toward the certifications in that area, but just had the opportunity to grow professionally based upon experiences that I had, whether it was participating on a performance improvement team and moving in a direction that took me in toward the route of quality improvement, which then led me to operations, which then led me to senior leadership. So all of these stepping stones along the way allowed me to be able to build skill sets. I'm really proud of the fact that I am the first woman COO, Chief Quality Officer, and CEO here at Stony Brook. And that just demonstrates that Stony Brook is open and willing to accepting women leaders. And I believe we have a C-suite full of very competent and capable women as well. So, and men, of course, too. But clearly, there's been significant growth in that area to empower women to be able to hold positions at that level. I remember when I first became Chief Operating Officer and then CEO, and I participated at hospital associations. I was literally the only woman sitting around the table. And now, a few years later, there are many more women, I'm proud to say. So that brings me joy.
That's great. Yeah. And I think it's quite an achievement. Thinking back to when you started your career, if you could give your younger self some advice, what would you say to yourself?
I think what I would say is to take more risks and also push myself out of my comfort zone. I think that the sooner you begin to push yourself out of your comfort zone, the easier it is to grow professionally, to grow personally, and it helps you to build skill sets that you might have not otherwise attained. So I think pushing yourself out of the comfort zone would be advice I would have given my younger self.
That's wise. I think that's, as you said, where the growth occurs is when you get a little bit out of your comfort zone. In your current position, if you look at sort of the things that you've done to shaped Stony Brook University Hospital, what are the one or two things that you're most proud of?
I think the service line growth, that is something that I'm really excited about in developing a structure that helps to support the growth of the enterprise. That's one area of focus. And I'm also really proud of working with the leadership team to shift the organizational culture to one that really empowers and engages employees. If you don't have an engaged workforce, you really don't have the ability to provide the best patient experience, and it's all connected. So I would say that those would be the areas that I would look back on and say that I'm glad that we were able to accomplish that as a team.
Okay. Lots to be proud of. I think I agree. So looking ahead, what are the things that you're most optimistic about?
Oh, I'm so optimistic. First of all, that we work in an academic medical center. So we have an opportunity, a very unique and distinct opportunity to work with younger people who are students, who are learning various health professions, and we watch and help to train them. And it's really exciting to see the next generation and what's to come. I think that that's a really unique part of what we do here at Stony Brook. I think that it's something that brings me inspiration every day, looking through the eyes of others who are kind of learning the profession in an entirely different way than the way we may have learned.
Right. And you continue to teach in our NHA program.
I really enjoy it. I never want to let go of teaching. It's really exciting to teach the next generation, and something that I'll always hope to do, well beyond my years here.
I'm not sure the students realize how fortunate they are to have you as a professor who not only can teach about the topic, but practices it every day at such a high level.
Oh, well, thank you. We're really fortunate. We have a lot of students who actually participate in various projects with some of our senior leaders. And so it's fun to watch them in the classroom and then watch them work on a project and see it through.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing. What do you say to the next generation of women leaders who want to step into even bigger roles?
I think it's really important to advocate for yourself, to have a voice at the table. It's also important to ensure an opportunity for higher visibility. So if you are working on some type of a project, that you should present the work that you've done. Mm-hmm. But I think it's really, advocacy is very important, and just speaking up.
Good advice. Okay, I have a couple of rapid fire questions, okay?
Yeah, I'm ready.
One word that describes leadership.
Impact.
Okay, good. Best piece of advice you ever received.
Push the boundaries and be bold.
Excellent. Hardest lesson you ever learned.
Leadership is not about being liked. It's really about being effective in your decision making.
Most underrated leadership skill?
Humility.
Very good. Well, thank you, Carol, for your extraordinary leadership of Stony Brook University Hospital and for the 4 decades that you've dedicated to our wonderful organization. Your impact, you should know, as I think you probably do, is felt not only within our hospital walls, but across the communities we serve, and actually across the country. And during Women's History Month, we are especially proud to celebrate your example of commitment, resilience, and service.